Today, we've got an interesting one to talk about. Caleb Maupin, dubbed the Spanky Tanky, for those of you guys that don't know, has returned from the dead. For those of you guys that don't know, he's been gone for a while. He took a little sabbatical from the internet, following a bit of an exposement, an expose that happened to him, in which a woman who I believe might have been a non-binary person. I'm pretty sure that it was a woman, but a woman in question exposed Caleb Maupin for both being, I believe, a cheater, as well as a sexual harasser, unironic sex cult owner. That's right. You guys thought that I had a sex cult. This motherfucker actually had one. A sex cult owner in which he had basically used his money and position to coerce women into relationships with him, in which he would financially abuse them. And just among a bunch of other funny shit, including the fact that he's a massive sub who likes to be spanked by women because of some, like, child abuse shit that had to do with his dad. It was really weird. And reading the... You guys should just go and look at my video about it. I break down laughing for roughly 20 minutes of the video, reading the expose. I've actually blocked most of it out of my mind, and I remember very little, but I feel like now that I'm being forced to look at this man again, memories are just going to come flooding back. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, Caleb Maupin is a pretty much irrelevant. He's got like 24.7 thousand subscribers in his channel. This video came out 13 hours ago and has 6.5k views. So nobody gives a fuck about this guy. This guy is not a very large figure, but he is very large if you consider him like in the Tankie sphere. The Tankies don't really have that many large figures in their space. They're all very stupid, their ideas are horrible, and they're very bad at optics, so they kind of have a hard cap on how much they can grow politically. They will always be politically ineffective, irrelevant LARPers, which is kind of why I've never devoted much time to dunking on them. They will never be more than a Twitter nuisance. They will literally never be more than a Twitter nuisance. He is, however, a massive Russia simp, so I guess if you consider Russia tanky, I guess you could say that the invasion of Ukraine is like a step up from Twitter nuisance, but I don't really... Caleb Maupin's trying to ride the coattails of Putin. He is not like a part or politically affiliated with Putin in reality. I don't think that Putin has politics that are like definable enough that Maupin actually would agree with them. I don't need, like, unless Caleb Maupin's willing to admit he's a homophobe and, like, transphobe, maybe then, because, like, Putin hates the gays. That's one of the biggest positions he's got. Regardless, though, he's a massive, like, RT Russia propagandist. He's literally been marked as state-affiliated media by Twitter and by, like, other social media platforms because he spreads so much misinformation. It's what he's known for. And his career's basically over. He's done. He is fucking done. However, he did try to take a break and is now trying to make a comeback to the internet, hoping that people have forgotten about what was exposed about him and hoping that he can, smooth over what he did with the public and, repair his reputation. Let's go ahead and take a look. This video is actually 26 minutes long, and I have no doubt this guy talks slowly, so I'm going to speed it up to 1.4 speed, and you guys are going to have to deal with that.
Hey everybody, I'm back. So is the Center for Political Innovation. Glad to be here.
Oh my god, this guy does actually talk fast. He also talks like a literal Keebler elf. He both looks and speaks like a literal fucking Keebler elf. So that also makes it hard to listen to at any level of sped up. I turned it down to 1.2% speed, sorry.
Now, the reason that we've been silent for so long is because on August 19th, a document was published by some former members of the CPI. Now, this document made some pretty outrageous claims about the nature of our organization, and also exposed some...
Oh, by the way, this document also contained, like, text messages and proof and evidence and everything. There's no denying the reality or the legitimacy of these messages or what he was exposed for. This guy's done. Like, the only people that are going to, like, the only people that will take this defense video seriously are people who have not gone out of their way to look at the accusations, as I have. I have covered them on my stream. You should go check it out. Or people that are just, like, I don't care what he's done. I'm a bad person. I'm just going to follow the political pundit that shovels whatever opinion I want to hear into my ears every day, you know? And a lot of people are like that. A lot of people really don't give it. Like, most Alex Jones fans are like that. Most Trump fans are like that. When Trump said that he could go in the middle of Times Square and shoot a guy and most of his fans wouldn't care, he wasn't lying. That is true. There are a lot of people on the internet that just want some demagogue to look up to, and they don't care what that person does. They will defend everything they do. It's called simping.
Personal information about me. Now, before they published this, the folks who put this document together went around to different media personalities, different associates, and person after person told them not to do it. They told them that this was not necessary.
I don't know what he's referencing here, but this sounds made up. He makes up a lot of stuff in this. There's already been a pretty in-depth takedown of this entire video on Twitter. That was a pretty big thread, but I feel I'll take my own swing at it because it only came out 13 hours ago. So we're getting in early.
They shouldn't publish this document. They didn't listen. They had every opportunity to negotiate some kind of restorative justice, to try and get reforms inside the organization, to negotiate with me.
Okay, what restorative justice would there be if the goal was to expose Caleb Maupin for abusing his power to prevent him from being able to do it to more people with impunity? Nothing changes if no one speaks out. He's mad that people spoke out. Nothing was going to change.
Somehow, they didn't want to do that. They were determined to go public with this document. Why? Clout. They wanted to get more likes, more shares, more Facebook views, more attention. And that's why...
Guys, they push this document full of evidence that proves that I'm a piece of shit and an abuser. They did this because they want clout. They want clout, guys. Okay, you know when someone's only defense is these people just want clout in response to, like, very brutal and scathing allegations and evidence coming out against them? When that's all they have as their defense, that should be a massive red flag. When their immediate go-to response is the rice cum, you're just so mad because you're irrelevant and I'm famous, bro thing, like, and you want clout. Like, when that's their go-to response, it should raise some red flags.
I have waited so long to give an answer to this. I don't want to get into a social media back and forth with them about every detail of what they wrote. I'm going to answer this once and then never speak about this again. Now, often my live streams get very psychological. We talk about trauma and history and abuse and how it affects people. I apologize if you thought I was talking about this in a way that meant it didn't apply to me. It does apply to me. I do, like many of you, have abuse in my personal history, and it has affected me as an adult. I would have preferred...
Okay, this is literally just trying to deflect blame. Okay, like, we know in the DMs that you were exposed for, in which you were cheating on your wife and manipulating and coercing a woman with your position into having sexual, like, text with you. You talked about how you like to be spanked by women because of trauma, because of your childhood abuse. We're very aware of this, yes. Anyone who looked at the document is very aware of this, Caleb.
Preferred to keep this private, but it is now all over the internet. Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret. 19 U.S. states still allow for corporal punishment in public schools.
This is actually... Okay, I don't want to say this is a good point because he's just doing this to try to deflect the attention and, like, he's trying to deflect the ire and the attention of the video away from himself and more towards things that he hopes his fan base will be more inclined to think about coming out of the video, right? So yes, this is true. I've done videos on this, actually. I have a video on this. Corporal punishment is still legal in a lot of states. Not only that, but our society has a huge problem with thinking that hitting children in general is, like, legal and okay discipline. Like, I'm gonna be real, guys. When I was a kid and, like, a teenager and growing up, I did think that spanking was normal. Like, I like, maybe not like what I received, like with, you know, a belt across, you know, my body and stuff many times when I try to get away. But, like, I I was pretty certain that was like a normal thing, right? Like, okay, sometimes kids being too mouthy, you know, you gotta bend them over your knee, give them a few smacks to tell them like, hey, you're going too far, calm the fuck down. But as I got older, I was like, wait a second, that's just hitting your child and causing them pain to make them behave the way you want them to. That's illegal to do to dogs. You guys know that, right? Like, if a cop sees you, like, smack your dog across the face or, like, across its, like, just hit it, like, that hard, like, because it's doing something bad, like, you can get charges for animal abuse. And yet, in many places, that's still legal. Hey, Apillo, what's up? It's like 4 a.m. for you? It's 4:30 a.m. for me. These are DGen stream hours. I went live an hour and a half ago. Yeah, like, these really are, like, things that have been normalized in our culture when it comes to raising kids that are really fucked up. Because 99% of the time, when a parent spanks a kid, it is not some, like, emotionless, cold, doing it because I have to, this hurts me, then it hurts you, a couple taps and it's over. This is, like, measured discipline. It's more so like an angry parent lashing out and using the excuse of, well, the way I hit them is normalized as discipline, so it wasn't me hitting my kid out of anger, which is what it was me disciplining my child. That's what they've sort of normalized it as. And that is absolutely true. It's very fucked up. It is a very fucked up thing that is very normalized in American society. But it is not an excuse for anything that Caleb Maupin has done. This is just him trying to deflect.
There's not a day that goes by in Alabama or Mississippi or Texas that some school child isn't being struck with a heavy piece of wood by a teacher, someone who's supposed to be their caretaker. Now, studies show that corporal punishment is an ineffective...
Dog, if they tried to, like, bring me into some shit like that where a teacher was going to paddle me, I would fight back hard. I would fight back so fucking hard if a stranger tried to, like, if a stranger adult tried to hit me. I fought back when my parents did. Can you, like, oh my God, I would have, like, probably been taken away from the school in handcuffs. Like, I can't imagine a kid in 2022 allowing this to happen. I feel like any kid nowadays would fight back against the teacher, knowing that there would at least be some level of broader support for them doing so if it came down to it. Like, I could not imagine allowing that to happen to me. I'd have to be drug kicking and screaming. I would be like grabbing shit and throwing it and going for the throat, biting, scratching, poking eyes. Holy fuck. And you know what? If you're in a state where they do that and somehow you watch my content and you're young enough that you could possibly be subjected to corporal punishment by a teacher in a school, do that if it ever happens to you. You better leave that teacher with more bruises than they could ever possibly leave you with. Holy, consider it a fight. Consider it a fight. That's what it should be considered. Adults, why is it that when an adult hits another adult, they go to jail, but when an adult hits a kid, under certain circumstances like this, it's literally supported by the state? Of course, it's mostly red states. Yeah, that's a very interesting, yeah, weird how it's all of those, wait, Florida? Florida's on the list. Florida's actually on the list. I never went to a school where they did it, but you better believe if they fucking tried, bro, I would have absolutely. Well, to be fair though, I'm pretty sure it requires parental, like, permission. But yeah, that would not have flown with me. Holy crap. And I know most of the kids that I went to school with, it wouldn't have flown with them either. That's not me talking myself up. I do think that most kids nowadays would. I've seen kids start physical fights with teachers over so much less than a teacher laying hands on them. That like, holy crap.
And harmful way of raising a child.
I'm sorry, this is a weird stun lock, but I don't know. It just I feel like it's surprising that that's still so much of a thing, you know?
Furthermore, the way we practice corporal punishment in Anglo countries has a particularly sexual undertone to it. Pain is inflicted on a specific part of the body. It often includes...
I don't think there's a sexual undertone to it in most cases. I think it's more of like a... I think it's the same logic as like the whipping. So back in the day, it used to be like considered biblically allowed, right, to punish your wife by hitting her across the wrist with with like a little lash. You could also do it to your children too, but your wife as well. Like women that like were acting too much, it talks about this in the Bible. But it couldn't be longer than your thumb. So you get like a lash that couldn't be longer than your thumb, like a switch, and you would just go, fuck, I hit my headset doing that. You just go, almost like a slap bracelet. But if you've ever like taken like a hard vine, like the kind of vine you would cut off with you'd use a vine, right? Like you'd take a vine and you'd cut it like a hard vine. You'd cut it with a knife about like about this long. Take that and like as hard as you can, whack yourself over the wrist with it. That shit hurts, right? The logic was, oh, hitting someone and causing them pain as punishment isn't that bad because you're just using something no longer than your thumb and it doesn't leave a mark, right? The same logic goes in with like hitting a child on their buttock is like, oh, well, it doesn't cause a mark because it's a fatty part of your body. So if it doesn't leave a mark, then you're not really hurting the kid. It's literally just shit that like abusive parents have told themselves to make themselves feel like better people.
Forced nudity and other humiliations. The United States needs to join with 128 other countries and outlaw the practice of corporal punishment in school. Parents need to be educated about more healthy ways of disciplining their children.
This is all deflection. Why? This is literally all just deflection. Does he ever stop talking about? Okay, here we go.
This mistake again. But let me emphasize, all that I'm accused of is a few interactions, mostly conversations with consenting adults.
Is that what happened, Caleb? So he really is just relying on his audience, not like looking at the allegations or the evidence. So what actually happened was Caleb Maupin coerced multiple women with his position and his money into positions where they were really had no other choice but to sex with him. And after that began, he would like hold the guilt of what they were doing over their heads, emotionally manipulate them. Text and evidence of this supplied, by the way. And yeah, like. It wasn't just that he had a weird spanking kink and people were making fun of him for it. He was also emotionally manipulating and coercing women. Which is, bad. I think he was also exposed for a bunch of other abuses of power in his organization as well, too.
And that's all I'm accused of doing. However, immediately after this document was published, news articles showed up accusing me of sexual assault. This document does not accuse me of sexual assault. All over Twitter, I've been called a groomer, a pedophile, and all kinds of things. I've even been called a...
The existence of allegations that are so much more extreme than the real ones that they are false, those existing out there on the internet does not automatically absolve you of what you actually did. That you've been accused of and the evidence is out there for. It's such an easy go-to for people like this. Conservatives like to do it too. They'll point to like, see, some people on Twitter are overly exaggerating what I actually did, which really goes to show how little credibility there is in any of these accusations. It's like, what? Bro. He was also making those women work for his org for almost no money, so it was also financial abuse. Yeah, of course. He did, like, there was way more. He's just literally bullshitting right now. You have to remember, his audience are used to, like, gobbling up evident lies from Russian media outlets, so he can pretty much just lie to his audience and say, this was all he was accused of, it's not a big deal. And most of his fans will probably do about as much research on this as they do about any of the topics Caleb talks about, which is none. They're just going to listen to what he says, take it at face value, and continue watching his content. Not to say he's got many people watching his content, he's pretty fucking irrelevant, but, he'll at least still be a leech hanging around on the left's thigh, sort of dribbling down like a nugget of shit for like the next couple years.
Rapist.
Dude is not a communist. Yeah, I do like the I do want to remind you all, this guy's a communist who claims not to be a bootlicking Tankie, who has sexual now I'm not saying your sexual fantasies are necessarily indicative of your politics all the time, but like I will say, there is nothing better than me for like years now saying this guy's a bootlicking, authority-loving Tankie, and then in his bottom, like sexting talk with some random woman, he talks about how bad he wants to be spanked and how he wants to how he has to obey authority and be punished if he doesn't. It definitely helps what I've been saying about this guy for a while.
None of those things are in this document that was published. It's pretty clear this whole situation is being manipulated by outside forces, but we'll get to that later.
So either he's talking about the Jews, or he's going to try to say it's bread tubers or something.
Now, one of the most common claims that's been floating around is the allegation that somehow CPI was a, quote, sex cult. Well, the accusers themselves, the people who put this document together, were...
Well, no. The accusation wasn't that CPI, his organization, was a sex cult. The accusation was that he had tried to essentially build an unironic sex cult by coercing women into financial dependence on him, as well as social dependence on him. Because, like, let's be real, after, like, you've already been violated by a famous, like, even somewhat famous man, coming forward about it is a pretty scary thing. Because even if justice is done, listen, I got a question. So, all right, this doesn't work as well over text, because a lot of you in chat can just, you know, just type out your response pretty easily. But when talking to somebody, another guy, face to face, if you ask them out of nowhere, they've got no preparation, would you date a girl if she told you she'd been raped? A lot of them pause before answering. Even if they answer yes, a lot of guys pause. A lot of guys pause before saying yes. Or they say no. A lot of guys say no. A lot of people, some people in chat even admit they paused. And I don't think it's a bad thing because it's a weird question. No, it's not a weird question. If it's like, if you're having a conversation about this, it's because coming forward, particularly as a woman, coming forward about being raped or sexually assaulted, it doesn't the biggest fear isn't just people not believing you or retribution from the person who victimized you, but also, even if all of those things go well, there's also this level of this level of, like, you feel like people look at you and think about you a different way. Almost like people think of you as lesser for having been, like, harmed in that way, victimized in that way. And it is an actual social stigma that exists in our society, that women who have been raped are somehow lesser than women who haven't, in the same way that we view in our society women who have not lost their virginity as women who are, as, like, being superior to women who have, right? It's a very similar and very fucked up double standard in our society. And there's a similar thing with men, too. If a man came out and said that he had been raped, particularly by a woman, the amount of, like, or even by a man, that guy might be, like, subjected. I mean, the jokes about men getting raped in prisons right there. Jokes, humor, people not taking it seriously, people saying, wish it was me. Where were these women raping men when I was his age, you know? Like, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, they'll say, oh, what a lucky guy, right? Our society has a very, very fucked up view of rape and sexual assault victims, even if everything else goes perfectly for them. If they expose the person that hurt them with evidence and that person is, like, locked up and the society all agrees with them, there is no one who doesn't disagree, even then, they will still be known as the person who was raped by so-and-so. And that alone is a massive emotional and psychological barrier to people coming forward with allegations like this that I don't think a lot of people consider.
The first to speak up and say that that's not the case. Well, I appreciate that from them, but they know how the internet works. As soon as this was published, immediately every anti-China, anti-Russia bread tube troll jumped on it and made it into something.
What did I say? What did I say when he said external factors? He would either say it was the Jews or bread tubers. This guy literally wrote a book, by the way. This guy wrote a book about how bread tube is bad and sold it on Amazon to a very small audience and to a very small buyer base. And that book literally, I think it literally references me, right? As one of the people that's slighted him. It was his burn book. Wait, is this fucking play about us?
Something that it wasn't. And they knew that this would happen, but they didn't care. It was so important to them to inflict emotional pain on me, on my wife, on my parents, and on others in the organization that they really didn't mind that it was going to be picked up and used for other purposes. It was so important to them to hurt me.
I'm pretty certain I was name dropped because he literally came into my stream while talking about the book and started reading about me covering the book. He absolutely lost his mind in my chat when I talked about his book on my stream. It was really, really funny. We made sure it was him, too. He had a mental breakdown in my chat. It was really funny.
They just had to do this. Now, in addition to the sex drama, the document goes on to imply
oh my God.
that are just...
Wait, do I have a filter on my computer that is fucking things up? Or does he currently look like... Does he currently look like he's turning blue? Like, he looks like he's turning blue... But, like, the reddest parts of him are still, like, shining through. He's blue for me, too? Who else is seeing him as blue? Vosh saw it, too. Wait, has Vosh already covered this? That motherfucker. He got to it first. Yeah, he's blue. He touched too much raw silver with his bare hands.
Not true. One of the biggest false narratives in the document involves an unnamed person who is referred to as a heroin...
Is he literally a reanimated corpse?
...addict and a sex worker. Now, this document gives the impression...
Wait, why would he lead on talking about this person with... Now, the person who made these accusations is a self-admitted heroin addict and sex worker. So, for those of you guys that don't know, I'm pretty certain that... Tankies and people like, and I'm pretty certain Caleb Maupin himself do sort of like shit talk sex work and sex workers, like they're kind of swerfy. It's hard to even call it swerf because there's no feminism about it. It's just like this weird anti-sex work, like Christian fundamentalist prude like idea, despite the fact this guy has literally employed the services of sex workers.
That this person never would have been a sex worker, never would have relapsed in their heroin addiction if it wasn't for me. The document basically says that I maniacally conspired to make this person lose their job, to make this person...
This is not true.
...relapse on their heroin addiction, all so I could have them right where I want them. Well, that's bullshit, and people familiar with the situation know that. The truth of the situation is that this person would never have moved in with the other volunteers if it wasn't for the fact that their partner, also a heroin addict...
He's turning bluer and bluer. This is disgusting. This is literally what DJ Mule tried to accuse me of. Whenever I talked about how, like, my ex had stolen from me and used the money to buy drugs, like, DJ Mule, when he made his accusations against me, tried to frame it as me doing this. As me trying to, like, use some accusation of drug addiction as a discrediting factor. When no, that's just... me telling you guys what happened with what she did, you know, like, what the fuck? Yeah, so that's what he's actually doing here, for those that can't tell what's up.
Beat them up so badly they had to...
It's legit to hide his pink face. It's like some setting on the camera or the lighting. He's getting bluer and bluer as time goes by.
...go to the hospital. We were trying to protect...
It's like he's fighting full body necrosis.
...this person and give them a safe place to stay and get clean. This person lied to us and said that they were
His body
sober.
is entering black putrefaction.
And let me add that what happened between me and this person did not take place until long after they had already moved out from the housing. At that point, they weren't participating very much in CPI activities. After this person had moved out of the housing with the other volunteers, I continued to buy this person...
By the way, I don't care to bring up the whole document again, but, like, the document was quite conclusive. There is a reason why this guy's done. There's a reason why even a lot of the Tankie community kind of disowned him when all of this came out and has yet to, like, reclaim him. He is going to be very slimy, I'm sure, and try to find, like, some, like, screenshot that'll make him look good or something, but it's... The original document was pretty damn conclusive, and the evidence was pretty damn severe. I'm sure that Caleb Maupin would start calling himself a national social... Does he really call himself a national socialist, or are you memeing? Because national socialist literally means Nazi. Like, that's literally what the Nazi party. Memeing 100%? Yeah, I hope so. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he'd do that in some tongue-in-cheek way. Like, his positions are not that far away from full-on fascism.
Many meals. This person made clear to me that they were desperate and that they were low on money and that they also were interested in pursuing certain activities with me. Now, I should have had the foresight and the self-control not to continue to engage with this person. I made a mistake. I'm from a small town in Ohio. The way sex workers and drug addicts operate is not something I'm deeply familiar with. Somebody got inside my head. I got
What a way to try to weasel out of this. You see, guys, I did not know how these drug-addicted sluts really were. If I had only known how these women really behaved, I would have known to resist the temptation of the pussy. Like, what is he trying to say right now? What kind of response is this? What is he trying to do? Does he think this makes him look better? Yeah, at best this looks like victim blaming. Yeah. Has he been... Yeah, he looks like he's turning into a White Walker. That is what is happening to him.
Down in Ohio. The way sex workers and drug addicts operate is not something I'm deeply familiar with. Somebody got inside my head. I got emotionally wrapped up, and that's a mistake that will not be repeated. Now, if you really want to believe that I'm the kind of maniacally evil person who takes innocent, charming young college students and transforms them into heroin-addicted sex workers, I can't stop you from believing that.
Okay.
But anyone who's familiar with this situation knows that's not what happened, and anyone who knows me knows that's not the person that I am. Now, you'll notice the
anyone who knows me just knows that's not the kind of person I am. Like, do you have, like... If this guy had, like, some evidence, you know, like some DMs of, like, this person engaging in, like, behavior that's indicative of them just trying to manipulate a narrative or something like that. Okay, so let me tell you what this guy's done, all right? Let me tell you what he's done with this camera. People joke about his face being red a lot on the internet, and so when he made this video, because he knew it was going to get a lot of responses to him, he thought it would be a good idea to go into his camera's settings and go to white balance, and like, oh, people think I look really red. Well, there we go. This'll do it. See? Now I'm starting to look kind of blue like he does now. My lights in the background fuck it up, but now you see it. This motherfucker manually changed his white balance to make himself look less red. There you go. My camera can do that shit too. I see it, Caleb. I know what you did. I know what you fucking did.
Document never actually directly says this. It just kind of implies it. And it's pretty clear these people had some assistance in putting together this piece in order to frame me in the most negative light.
So what he's trying to do right now is claim that people took more drastic allegations from the document than what actually happened, and because of that, he is solely responding to that and trying to downplay what he actually did because, look, these people acted as though I did something worse. So essentially, this is a way of taking no accountability for what he really did. And his excuse, his go-to, what actually happened was he let some drug-addicted sex worker get into his head. That's what he did wrong. That's his side of the story. He didn't know how these women behave. He didn't know because he's from a small town. You don't understand, guys.
But avoid me suing them for defamation. Now, the second big lie in the document, not directly stated but just implied, is that somehow I was financially benefiting from CPI. Well, that's bullshit. I was constantly running out of money. I was panicking about how to pay.
Well, hold on. Does he actually expect people to believe that he did not profit from running an organization? There are many ways through which he would be profiting through the organization that would not be like the normal avenues people think of that he could be referencing here. Does he think that, like, the only way he could profit off of running one of these organizations would be through pocketing donations? Is that what he thinks people were accusing him of? I don't remember anything about him pocketing donations, but I'm pretty certain what he actually did was utilize his position to use financially not well-off women who are in financial hard spots, to extrapolate sexual favors from them. Extrapolate sexual favors? That works. To get sexual favors from them. I know that's what he was doing.
Pay for things like trips to Nicaragua, the conference in Austin, the retreat, the conference in Chicago. We got some big donations and it helped. But this idea that I was living it up like Hunter Biden, all off of the money people donated or gave in their dues, that's
I like how you literally couldn't tell. Like, if you took the references to, like, Russia or China out of this, you couldn't tell at all if you're watching, like, some conservative, reactionary Andrew Tate-esque YouTuber respond to, like, the next sexual assault allegations he's just gotten, or if we're watching a Tankie. You really can't tell because they're that similar. They have the same exact talking points. They literally simp for the same agendas, the same politics. It's all the same shit. Just in a different coat of paint.
Ridiculous. From the time that CPI began collecting dues to our temporary shutdown in August, we only ever collected about $8,000 in dues money. But if you add up everything that we spent money on, from housing the volunteers to the conferences to the retreat in Chicago, it cost way...
Oh, what happened with the housing of volunteers with the drama? I distinctly remember some stuff going on with the housing that also landed Caleb in hot water. I forget what it was. Does anybody in chat remember? I like how his organization has CP in its name. That's fitting for a tanky organization that simps for Russia. I'm not joking, by the way. Russian soldiers have literally been, like, sexually assaulting and raping women and little girls in Ukraine. Like, especially when they were occupying large parts of Ukraine, like, and they were more on, like, the, I wouldn't say winning, but, like, more when were, like, taking lots of land and rolling through neighborhoods. There were shit tons of women and little girls being raped by Russian soldiers. Shit tons. It's fucked. It's really fucked. That's the kind of shit that these Russian sympathizers are defending.
Way more than that. Let me add that there were many months that the volunteers were staying in Texas as I paid for their housing, as I paid for their food, when they really weren't doing anything to build the organization. They were just hanging out in Texas, maybe doing a little volunteer work with San Angelo Solidarity, with me footing the bill. This idea that I was living in luxury...
I'm going to be completely honest, guys. Unless you really have nowhere else to go, Dylan's stories were so sad. I have not heard any of Dylan's stories, but... maybe if I meet him in real life or we play a game or something together, he can tell some of them. Ugh, it's hard not to get spiteful towards, like, the Russian soldiers when you watch, like, the videos. Like, I sometimes find myself getting a little too hyped when I look at the R combat footage subreddit and I see, like, a video of, like, a Molotov or something being dropped from a drone onto, like, a Russian tank. And, like, seeping in between the cracks and, like, burning the crew inside alive or whatever. Or, like, when I found out about, like, you could pay to have, like, a Ukrainian soldier write a custom message on, like, a mortar shell and then have him fire it at a Russian tank, my first thought was, bro, that's so cool! I should have Sub the Xanderhal written on that and then watch as, like, a Russian tank gets obliterated. And then I thought... is there something wrong with, like, the way this war has affected my brain that was my first thought? Because that's pretty fucked up. And that shouldn't be your first thought. You shouldn't immediately think, like, oh, cool, I can get a cool custom message put on a shell that will then be fired, like, up to 6 to 9 men in a tank who will have their lives extinguished instantly. Many of the people in said tank probably don't even want to be there. It's a little grim. It's a little grim. Zan, there was a video going around of a Russian soldier doing a blowjob to another one before they got a grenade dropped on them from a Ukrainian drone. That was not a Russian soldier blowing another Russian soldier. They were laying in opposite directions in a trench, sleeping. They literally had blankets over them and they were sleeping. One's head was at the other one's feet and the other one's head was at the other one's feet. They were sleeping dug in a trench with like a blanket over them, hidden, like, in the trench, and a drone goes over and drops a grenade on them, and they die after, like, 30 seconds because the fragments, like, bleed them out. It's a pretty grim video. No, it's not that one. All right, you can DM that one to me on Discord. If that's real, then I kind of want to see it.
Off of $1 bill donations collected while people were distributing buttons in New York City parks, that just doesn't add up. I mean, the facts just aren't there. I was frazzled and worried about money the entire time the volunteers were operating. Now, one of the people in the document who seems to believe that I exploited him would be in prison if it wasn't for me, and we have a screenshot to prove this. This person would have gone back to jail if money that CPI had raised was not used to pay their court fines.
How is this a response to the allegations? Listen, guys, I did a really nice thing for this person once, which means the allegations that are true are automatically... Look, it's like an honor system in a video game. You did a good thing, so now your little slider has moved more towards the blue side of the bar instead of the red side. You got good karma. You know, that completely negates what I did. It's like Red Dead Redemption 2. You go into a town, shoot everybody, and then you catch some fish and let them go, and all your sins have been forgiven.
This person was basically homeless in Pennsylvania, but we opened our doors to them with the understanding they would help us do political work. Not only has this person been convicted of a firearms-related felony, they've been kicked out of many mutual aid groups and have been caught doing quite a bit of shady things on the internet. You can believe them, though.
Listen, I have no doubt that anybody who is willing to join Caleb Maupin's organization is probably kind of a shitty person, but that does not change what Caleb Maupin did to them. Hey, who would have thought? Yeah, the types of people that would associate with Caleb Maupin are kind of shitty people. Doesn't change the fact that what Caleb Maupin did to them was fucked up.
If you want. No one was coerced into doing anything. These people were all adults with free will, and they lived in Texas for months with me footing the bill for their housing and their food. This narrative where I'm an exploitive predator
He calls them, I hate that he calls them volunteers, that's employees. He calls them volunteers because they don't get paid. And like their pay is like housing and like the chance to live somewhere and have some of your basic necessities met, while meanwhile having the fact that that is done held over your head and used against you as he is now.
Living off of them and constantly driving them to work harder in order to enrich myself, it just doesn't add up to facts. It's pure malarkey. Now, don't get me wrong in this next part. These accusers are definitely real people, and their feelings about me certainly...
Why did he use a multi-camera setup for this? Oh, it's meant to make it look like more like high production value. You see, like, this guy does not have much of a following online. Like, I am not a very large figure, and this guy's following is a fraction of my following, to give you an idea. This guy relies heavily on making his content look highly well-produced to offer a illusion of legitimacy that does not exist.
Represent real grievances that they have. But for this next part, we're going to get into a section I call, Isn't It Interesting? Now, you all know who I am. I work for Russian...
Isn't it interesting how? So are we just going to, like, hear a bunch of, like, yes, I did this bad thing, but here's a bunch of imagined hypocrisy against the people that I don't like. Divert your attention to them.
Media. I have ties to various revolutionary anti-imperialist governments and movements around...
Oh yeah, man. I'm sure that you're just out there with the homies revolting against those fascist dictatorships going on right now all over the world. You're out there with them. You're a comrade. You're a comrade, you know? Like, all those people suffering in North Korea right now, they can rest easy knowing Caleb Maupin is a comrade, and he is out there fighting for their rights. Oh, wait, he's not? He simps for North Korea too, like every other Tankie? Who would have thought?
...around the world. I'm on the Ukrainian government's list of information terrorists. Now, isn't it interesting that just hours after this document was published, Daria Dugina, the daughter of Alexander Dugin, was murdered by a car bomb?
Well, for one, she was a fascist, so I'm not... I just want to say, for one, for anyone who doesn't know who that is, that was a Russian fascist propagandist who got car-bombed during a war. So, I consider Russia the enemy right now. So that was an enemy figure getting assassinated. Like, why should I be upset about that? What? I don't get upset when, like, that's like Bin Laden getting assassinated. Maybe not like the amount of bad deeds being done, but like in my mind, it's like, yeah, an enemy of freedom and of the American way of life has been extinguished. Yeah, like, who cares? Yeah, she's dead. She's down there. She's down in the hell place. Big deal. I do like the idea, though, that isn't it interesting that they put out this document on me, and then hours later, this other Russian propagandist got murdered. Or other propagandists got murdered. This other Russian propagandist got car bombed. It's almost like they would have car bombed me if they could.
We all know that one of the main talking points against me...
So instead, they canceled me on the internet instead of car bombing me. These are very equivalent things.
By the BreadTube universe is the fact that I met with Alexander Dugin once in 2018. They constantly call me a Duginist. Isn't it interesting that the Communist Party USA, a group that spends all of its time campaigning for Democrats and has been trying to smear me as a neo-Nazi despite years of...
Yes, because Democrats right now are the Americans left, the American left, well, actually, it's not the American left's best chance. It's American minorities' best chance at having, like, anything resembling, like, equal treatment and rights in this country preserved. Fighting the Republican Party right now needs to be of utmost important to every single leftist in America. There really is no excuse to see any other issue as a bigger issue than the prominence of the Republican Party, at least politically. Like, obviously, climate change, you know, that's pretty existential. That's like the White Walkers are coming to kill us all, you know? But, like, the next step down is the Republican Party trying to destroy the very concept of freedom and happiness for everybody they don't like.
Anti-racist activism had a resolution condemning me, all prepared to send out the very next day after this document was published. This resolution that
they had one prepared the very next day, or do you think they maybe just, like, wrote it?
Published supposedly took months to prepare. They had this resolution finally ready to send out to their membership just after this document was published. Now, isn't it interesting that the Party of Communists...
He's just alleging conspiracy now. He's just alleging that like, everybody who hates him has come together to form together some sort of conspiracy against him. Listen, guys, if this is actually true, I assure you I'm not in on it, okay? I would love to find out that Caleb Maupin and all of the horrific fucking things that I read in that document were not true, okay? I came out of reading that document a changed man, all right? To find out none of it was true would actually restore a certain modicum of my faith in humanity. I assure you I am not emotionally or psychologically incentivized to believe anything in that document was real, okay? The evidence is just pretty strong. I've lost faith in humanity after that fucking video. How did Zan find this video? This one? The one I'm responding to? This came out today.
One of the only other leftist groups to stand with Russia during the whole Ukraine crisis just got hit in a similar manner. Almost immediately after I was subject to these smears, you'll notice that the Party of Communists had their website commandeered with a manifesto.
By the way, he will try to claim that there's some sort of overwhelming conspiracy here, but this is pretty normal when it comes to, like, general, like, coverage of somebody, right? Like, if something comes out about somebody that makes them look bad, if people are holding on to things that also make them look bad, that are separate from that, those things are far more likely to come to light following something else coming to light. Like, these things usually come out in, like, a cluster, right? It's usually not like, oh, this person got exposed for this thing, then a year later they got exposed for the same thing, then 2 years later the same thing. No. It's usually like, they get accused and exposed for this thing, and then the following months, like, 5 more people come out to expose similar things or them doing the same thing. So that seems to be what happened here. This all basically, like, broke the seal on the well of dirt on Caleb Maupin that has existed for a while now. And, well, he's just bitching and whining about the reaping what he sowed.
Accusing them of similar things. I think we can all see what's going on here. Now, it's also interesting to note that one of the people I exposed in my BreadTube book was Dr. Steve Hassan. Steve Hassan used to be associated with something called the Cult Awareness Network, and he's one of the leading cult analysts and experts on cults who appears on CNN.
I don't care about this. Is he going to get back to making excuses for himself yet?
Did not feel victimized by what went on between us, but rather they were upset about an argument that we'd had months later. They accepted my apology. Then on the phone, they told me, quote, "I am not comfortable with people using this to get their revenge." Now, I've also gotten reports from people who were initially invited to join the accusations against me that this person seemed very reluctant to be involved. They kept saying things like, "Why don't we all just go talk to Caleb?" So ask yourself, how ethical is it to pressure someone in life circumstances like this to come forward and draw public attention to themselves when they don't even feel personally victimized? Now, I can't prove that this person was under threat or they were compensated for what they did. I do know that their name was left out of the document, and I will be protecting their privacy as much as I possibly can.
Wait, he's talking about somebody who wasn't even included in the document. Wait, what? He's talking about this hypothetical person who was coerced into being part of the document despite not being named in the document? Having public attention drawn to themselves despite not being named in the document? What? Okay. Weren't all the victims unnamed? Wouldn't the only people that would have had attention drawn to them would be the people that exposed themselves?
Can. Now, one thing I do know is that this person had legal troubles over the past year. And one thing that we should be aware of is the fact that when people are facing criminal charges, often plea deals involve the person agreeing to cooperate with police investigations and
Oh my god, is he going to try to claim... Oh my god, is he going to try to claim that the feds are trying to take him down and have given like a plea deal offer to this person for criminal activity? And this is amazing. This is actually fucking amazing. Dude, he's just trying to claim there's like an anti-Caleb Maupin world conspiracy. The whole world's out to get you, Caleb. They just can't let you succeed, man. They just gotta stop you from doing what you can.
Overt police activities. Now, someone who's not a fan of me at all, someone named Bad Empanada,
He's going to talk about Bad Empanada?
pointed out that to him, it sounded like this entire document was written by a single person. The whole thing had a similar narrative flow.
For those that don't know, by the way, Bad Empanada has literally sent death threats and has threatened to go to the homes of people that I am friends with. That is all I can say. But, like, Bad Empanada is not only a doxer, but also, like, sends death threats to people that he doesn't like. And threatens to go to their houses and shit like that. Like, he is actually a psychopath. He is actually a dangerous person if any of like, the things that he'll threaten to do in DMs with people are actually anything other than, like, bluffing. The bluffing of some asshole on the internet. So he's either, like, a deranged asshole on the internet or, like, a dangerous, crazy person on the internet. There's really no other way to put it.
To it. It looks a lot like what happened was that some ex-members of CPI were assembled. And they had very different grievances, very different feelings. Some of them liked Keaton, some of them hated Keaton. They were brought together and interviewed, and then some kind of curator sat down and compiled their personal grievances into one document that had a single narrative flow to it. An atmosphere was created for these people to one-up each other.
This is literally a guy who wrote an entire book about how all the breadtubers that don't like him, who wrote and sold... By the way, he talks about how he doesn't profit from, like, his position. He literally sold a book that was a burn book about how BreadTube hates him, and he's so mad about it. And it's literally just a book about internet drama. That's a real thing that he did. And now he is complaining that apparently people have come together to write an expose on him out of spite. Look at the projection. Is this... Maybe he's literally projecting and talking about what he did writing that book. Is he and his friends got together to, like hug box about all the content creators that have done him wrong, and they got together and wrote that book together. Maybe he's just projecting.
And their stories about my supposed manipulations. Despite all these people having different grievances and different feelings, this document was put together and given a narrative flow so that it served one particular purpose. Now, anyone who's familiar with Dr. Steve Hassan and the Cult Awareness Network should recognize this style of work. This is how they tend to carry out their operations. It's
It's a cult. The anti-Caleb Maupin cult. He is actually trying to argue that there is an anti-Caleb Maupin cult and conspiracy.
Possibly find. And they're really counting on people not actually reading this entire document.
Holy fuck, he is projecting. This is exactly what he's counting on. Hey, listen, guys, if you watch this video and you are feeling like, maybe the accusations weren't as bad as I thought, go watch my video where I read them. Go watch my video where I read the document and look at the evidence and voice the screenshots. I did voices for the screenshot sexting conversations. It's very, very, very good. If any of you have any doubts, just go look at where I covered the whole document.
They want people to just be grossed out and disgusted. Now, if CPI were a sex cult, they would have a lot more to accuse me of, and a lot more people to come forward with sexual allegations against me. Furthermore, if CPI were a sex cult, the accusers...
I like the idea. I love the idea of, if I was actually a sexual predator, wouldn't there be more people calling me out for being a sexual predator? Left wing destroyed. We never claimed it was a sex cult. That's why the synthetic left like Vosh, which I plan on debating for partly that reason. The synthetic left
themselves would not be saying otherwise. The idea that
2 likes and 1 quote tweet from August 2022. It's a tweet from August with 2 likes and a quote tweet that was probably making fun of it. Yankee Tanky. Oh, is that who this is? I've never seen what the Yankee Tanky looks like. He's a neckbeard? That makes about sense. Good God.
That I wrote books that are hundreds of pages in length, that I spent thousands of dollars putting on events, that I spent years and years trying to put together an organization, all just as some kind of elaborate scheme to get sexual favors out of people, is utterly ridiculous. Now, I know there are some people that are going to have a lot of PTSD and a lot of traumatic experiences in their past.
Okay, is this going to be Hugbox for the rest of the video?
Kansas, one of our attendees...
Is this just Hugboxing now for the rest of the video?
Changed. We are now incorporated as the CPI Education Project in the state of Oregon. Now,
that's terrifying.
I do not control the bank accounts, and I will not be playing an administrative role in the organization. There will be other people who take on those tasks. I'm written into the bylaws as the ideological leader, but other people will be running the day-to-day activities of the organization. Former CPI members are welcome to rejoin, and new people are welcome as well. Go ahead and click the link down below. You can become...
Okay, so he's just going to show for the rest of the video. That makes sense. Damn, what a desperate attempt. I saw a Twitter thread that, like, broke down this video in a little bit more detail with particular clips and claims that he makes being debunked. Let me see if I can find that, because I feel like he tried to fluff up the video where he responds to the allegations with a lot of random bullshit, which sort of obfuscates everything. Obligatory Vosh reference. So apparently he references Vosh.
How did I win? How did anyone win here? All that came out of this was that CPI temporarily dissolved. I had to be silent for a couple months. And those who don't support Venezuela, Iran, Russia, or China got a new piece of information to ridicule all of us that are anti-imperialist with.
Anti-imperialist. Ah. How fun. He's so salty. What is this? There's an additional clip here. Apparently he's salty in this one.
Sure that they are still in pain. The libidinal rush they got from taking me down with this document went away after a couple weeks. They're still living at home. They're still full of resentment. They're still lonely. They're still angry. They're still frustrated. They're still depressed. They're still hopeless. They're still bitter, and they're still not going anywhere in this world. The idea that publishing this document and trying to take me down was going to make their lives better was an illusion. They're right back where they started.
That's his response to the people who accused him. That's his response to the people who accused him. Holy fucking shit. It's a good thing that we didn't just... I mean, like, I guess that's why, you know, he filled it with so much fluff, because even though we skipped through it, because we skipped through it, we missed that bit. We missed that bit where he just completely says, no, actually, everyone who accused me is a piece of shit. Fuck them. I'm still in power. Fuck you. What a piece of shit. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support the channel and push my content in the algorithm, force YouTube to expose me to brand new people, consider dropping a like, whether it be on the stream, on the video, on the VOD, whatever it may be. It helps the channel out a lot. You can also comment down below. I don't know, comment down below something like, the Spanky Tanky is red. Or the Spanky Tanky is blue. Comment that down below to let me know you watched the whole video. God, my nose be itching. You can also follow my social medias, all linked down below if you want to see more from me online. Subscribe and ring the bell icon to see more from me if you want YouTube to tell you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, you can also support me financially by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or even through Patreon. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.